Hello and welcome back to the channel. Today, we're diving into another powerful psychological bias, one that influences nearly every decision we make, from business and investing to personal life choices. It's called the Overoptimism Tendency, and it explains why humans consistently expect things to turn out better than they actually do. This tendency leads people to overestimate their chances of success and underestimate risks, often leading to poor decision-making, financial losses, and even business failures. While optimism can be a great motivator, unchecked over-optimism can create blind spots that cause individuals, companies, and even entire economies to crash. Imagine a young entrepreneur launching a new business. They have a groundbreaking idea, a passionate team, and a belief that their company will succeed against all odds. They've heard about successful startups like Uber, Airbnb, and Google, and they assume they can follow a similar path. What they often overlook is the brutal reality: most startups fail. In fact, over 90% of new businesses never make it past their first few years. But the over-optimism tendency prevents them from fully acknowledging these odds. Consider the case of WeWork. In its early days, WeWork promised to revolutionize office spaces with a bold vision and charismatic leadership. Investors and executives were swept up in the excitement, believing that the company would dominate the real estate industry. The valuation skyrocketed, reaching nearly $47 billion. But reality soon caught up. WeWork had fundamental financial issues, an unsustainable business model, and leadership problems that were ignored due to overconfidence. When the company finally attempted to go public, the flaws became undeniable, and the valuation collapsed. The dream turned into a disaster, all because of unchecked over-optimism. This bias isn't limited to startups. Established companies can also fall into the trap of over-optimism, especially when expanding into new markets. Take the example of General Motors in the early 2000s. GM, once the dominant force in the automotive industry, believed that its brand power and market presence would continue to guarantee success. It expanded aggressively, assuming that consumers would remain loyal to its cars despite growing competition from Japanese and European automakers. However, it failed to acknowledge shifting consumer preferences toward more fuel-efficient vehicles and underappreciated the impact of rising oil prices. The company's overconfidence in its ability to maintain dominance led to financial struggles, culminating in a government bailout in 2009. Over-optimism also affects investors. Many traders believe they can beat the market despite overwhelming evidence that most individual investors underperform compared to index funds. This tendency is especially dangerous during bull markets, when rising stock prices create an illusion of invincibility. Investors start believing that prices will keep going up indefinitely, ignoring warning signs of economic downturns. This happened during the 2008 financial crisis. Home buyers, banks, and investors all assumed that housing prices would never fall. People took out massive loans, banks packaged risky mortgage-backed securities, and Wall Street bet heavily on real estate. When reality struck, it led to one of the worst financial crashes in history. In the world of sports, we see the over-optimism tendency play out in contract deals. Teams often overpay for athletes based on a few years of exceptional performance, assuming that the player will continue to improve or maintain their peak abilities indefinitely. One example is when the Los Angeles Lakers signed veteran Steve Nash in hopes of building a championship-winning team. While Nash had an impressive career, injuries and age caught up with him, and he never lived up to the high expectations. The Lakers had bet on an over-optimistic outcome and ended up with a costly mistake. Even governments are not immune to this bias. Large-scale infrastructure projects like the construction of highways, airports, and public transportation systems are frequently over budget and behind schedule. When launching these projects, decision-makers often underestimate costs, overestimate benefits, and assume everything will go according to plan. A famous example is the Sydney Opera House. Originally projected to take 4 years and cost $7 million, the project ultimately took 14 years and cost over $100 million, nearly 15 times the original estimate. On a personal level, over-optimism affects everything from career choices to financial planning. Many people assume they will retire early, earn higher salaries in the future, or never face serious financial setbacks. This belief leads to risky decisions, such as taking on excessive debt, failing to save for emergencies, or neglecting proper insurance coverage. When unexpected events like job loss or medical emergencies occur, they find themselves unprepared. So why do we fall into this trap? The overoptimism tendency is deeply rooted in human psychology. Optimism helps us take risks, pursue ambitious goals, and push through adversity. Without it, innovation and progress would be much slower. But when optimism turns into overoptimism, it blinds us to potential failures and causes us to overlook important details. To avoid falling into this trap, it's important to balance optimism with realism. One of the best ways to counter overoptimism is through rigorous scenario planning. Instead of assuming everything will go well, consider potential risks and worst-case scenarios. Entrepreneurs should analyze failure rates in their industry and have contingency plans in place. Investors should recognize that markets move in cycles and prepare for downturns. Individuals should plan for unexpected life events, rather than assuming everything will always go smoothly. Warren Buffett, one of the world's most successful investors, is known for his cautious approach to investing. While others get swept up in market hype, Buffett remains grounded in fundamentals. He famously said, "Be fearful when others are greedy and greedy when others are fearful." This mindset helps protect him from the irrational exuberance that often accompanies the overoptimism tendency. At the end of the day, optimism is a valuable trait, but it needs to be paired with critical thinking. The most successful people in businesses are not just optimistic, they are also prepared for setbacks. They acknowledge risks, adapt when things don't go as planned, and make informed decisions based on evidence rather than wishful thinking. If you found this video insightful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more deep dives into cognitive biases, mental models, and decision-making strategies inspired by Charlie Munger, Warren Buffett, and other great thinkers. Thanks for watching, and until next time, stay optimistic but stay prepared.